So today's talk is spiritual chat on the power of energy healing. Today's date is Wednesday, August the 10th, 2022. I just thought this was a good topic because the last chat was on health and healing. And so I thought, well, maybe I need to speak on the power of energy healing for people to understand how much it can impact us and how good it can be. I truly believe that energy healing is the best kept secret. It can do what no medication or operation can do for the body. So we are first and foremost an energy being and then a physical body. So we are impacted first energetically, then it will manifest physically if we don't sort out the issue behind it. Even breaking a leg or being in a car accident, something happened before that even made you available to have an experience like that. It created a vulnerability for you that experience could even come into your realm. So any negative impact on the energy bodies impacts our physical bodies in a negative way. And then the opposite is true. So any positive impact on the energy bodies will affect our physical body in a positive way. So when I'm referring to energy healing, I'm not just talking about the modality of energy healing. I'm referring to anything that affects the body's energy system in a positive way. So anything that alters your energy frequency in a positive way would be termed as an energy healing, okay? So whether it's running a frequency along the meridians, or what are the meridians are the energy pathways of the body, or whether it's color therapy, where the color, which also each color has its own frequency, can balance your the different chakras or the energy centers of the body, light therapy, or meditations or visualizations that raise your vibration or the frequency of your body. So all of those things, and I mean there's many others, would affect your body energetically and so in a positive way, and so would have a positive impact on the body. So I'm qualified in numerous modalities of energy healing and in color therapy. My focus is on personal transformation, and I do this through one-on-one sessions and workshops that I teach. I've been doing this formally for 20 years. I'm a transformation specialist and a practitioner of energy medicine and energy psychology. And I came across the term energy medicine and energy psychology a couple of years back, where they were describing exactly what that was. And I thought, that's what I do. So I just want to read you what the definitions are. And it's very interesting that the person who, the people who did the definition for energy medicine is actually a medical doctor. And the guy that did the definition for energy psychology is actually a psychologist. So that's pretty impressive. So the definition of energy medicine, and this is by PhD Dr. David Feinstein. He says conventional medicine at its foundation focuses on the biochemistry of cells, tissue, and organs. Energy medicine at its foundation focuses on the energy fields of the body that organize and control the growth and repair of cells, tissue, and organs. Changing impaired energy patterns may be the most efficient, least invasive way to improve the health of organs, cells, and the psyche. And then the definition of energy psychology is also by a psychologist, PhD, Fred P. Gallo. And he's got definition of energy psychology. Energy psychology addresses the relationship of the energy systems to the emotion, cognition, behavior, and health. These systems include electrical activity of the nervous system and heart, meridians, biophotons, biofields, etc. Although psychological functioning involves thought, emotions, chemistry, neurology, genetics, and environmental aspects, at an essential level, bioenergy is also involved. Just as an audio tape or computer hard drive contain information in electromagnetic fields, similarly, our brain and body operate electromagnetically. Energy psychology is applicable to a wide range of areas, including psychotherapy, counseling, education, vocational guidance, physical health, pain management, sports, and peak performance. So I thought those were such good definitions. And I realized instead of trying to describe all the different things that I do, at the end of the day, I'm a practitioner of energy medicine and energy psychology. So basically, with the energy medicine, it means that my approach to any physical illnesses of the body is from an energy perspective. And I apply energy, no matter which techniques I'm using, I'm applying energy to that. Even if it's regression, that is still energy that is being applied to give a higher frequency. So anything that's frequency or vibration is still energy. And then energy psychology means that my approach to any mental or emotional issues is from an energy perspective as well. And I would apply the same techniques to be able to shift that, besides shifting a person's perspective. So I apply energy to everything I do in my practice, and I've had phenomenal results over the years. So I consider myself to be the world's biggest skeptic. I never accept anything at face value or if it sounds good. I question everything. Maybe that's why I've survived so well in all the stuff that's happened, because I've always kind of stayed in the eye of the storm and just observed what's happening. So it served me very well to be skeptical, because if I'm convinced of something, I'm convinced 1,000%. It means I've checked the thing upside down, inside out, leaving no stone unturned. And I always ask for signs from the universe, from God, from the angels, whatever you want to call source. I've always asked for signs. And then even when I get the signs, I ask for more and then some. So I'm sure that heaven rolls its eyes when I start asking for signs, because they know they're in for a long haul of, okay, I know you gave me that sign, but can you just give me one more just to make sure that I've got it right? And also, just because someone is supposed to be an authority on something doesn't necessarily mean they are. So I've always had the reservation of I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to wait and see. Because if they're not, it will show. Something will show. And then normally what happens when I'm in that state of observing, they do things that either make me see that they're the real deal or that they're not. So that's always served me really well, because some people can smooth talk a particular topic that you think they know exactly what they're talking about, and they don't. You know, if they're off the narrative and somebody challenges them on something, then they can't answer in a way that's convincing enough. You know, it's all very well having just learned knowledge, you know, just something that's information, where it's not really experiential, where you've had the experience, you've seen, and it's proven that things have happened in a particular way. You know, so it's really important to always be in a state of inquiry whenever something new comes your way. So when I attended the energy healing courses, as much as I really wanted to learn the energy healing, I was still skeptical about whether it really works. So I was still questioning everything so that I could understand why and how things work. I've always done that with everything. So I come from a metaphysical background, which was way out the box. Yet I'd never explored things like crystal healing, color therapy, energy healing, chakra systems, auras. I mean, I had never really seen anything like that, really. I hadn't come across it, even though I was so way out the box and found out, oh, there's another whole area of out the box that I hadn't even come across. So in 1998, I pulled a muscle in my lower back and went to a chiropractor. And this boy was really, really switched on. I could hardly move, but when I looked at his bookshelf, he had all the spiritual books that I'd read. So I said to him, is that just for show, or have you actually read those books? And he said, no, I've read them. So I said, oh, that's amazing. So while he's doing because it was the first time I'd ever been to a chiropractor. So while he's busy doing the adjustment on me, and he's almost all over my body to try and twist and whatever. And I said to him, you do realize that whatever you're doing is very different to what happens with normal doctors or whatever. So, you know, there must be much more going on here. He said, yes, I know. And so I said, you do realize that quite possibly, I just kept on saying, you do realize. And he said, look, I think you need to borrow this book and go and read it, and then we'll talk. And he gave me his book, The Hands of Light, by Barbara Ann Brennan to read. And that book, which is known as the Healer's Bible, because the information is so thorough in it, led me down a whole nother rabbit hole of investigation, because in the book it's got information about different modalities like color therapy, energy healing, the aura around plants, talks about different psychotherapy things, what happens in the energy field, and it's got beautiful pictures that show what's actually going on in the energy field. And it was quite interesting because the woman that wrote that book is an astrophysicist. That's her background. But she's also psychic, and meaning she's clairvoyant. And she found that when she looked at someone who had had anesthetic or chemo or something 20 years before, she could still see it in their energy field, even though they'd recovered from that. And that's when she started investigating more to find out why is that still in the energy field if the body has recovered. And so that's where she went on the whole journey to go and investigate that. So in 1999, I did training in Aurosoma color therapy. Now, Aurosoma is made in the UK. The bottles are made in the UK. It's, now I think there might be close to 120 bottles, not quite sure. And they're of different color combinations. So the top fraction is oil-based and the bottom fraction is water-based. And it's water from the Glastonbury well from the UK. So the Glastonbury well is holy water. It's sacred water. And so they use that in the bottom fraction and then essential oils in the top fraction. So each of the bottles are different color combinations. And of course, each color represents a different part of the body because of the different chakras or energy centers of your body. So anything that's yellow or gold would be relating to the solar plexus area. Anything that's turquoise or blue would relate to the high heart or the throat chakra. Green would be the heart. So each of the different colors relate to the different areas of the body. And so I was blown away how the colors could affect you. And so how the system works is that the person would stand in front of the whole range of bottles and just scan with their eyes and then choose whatever bottle caught their attention. And so I was fascinated by the fact that a person could choose a selection of bottles, 4 or 5, and it would tell the whole story of where they were at right now, what they were going through, and what it was relating to. I mean, it just was mind-boggling. And when I asked the woman, so just explain exactly how it's working, and she said, well, the body is energetically interacting with the bottles. And so your eyes will pick up the bottles that are telling your story that you're resonating with at that time. And so people just holding the bottle would receive healing and balancing from that. And then the interesting thing is, excuse me, that when the reading was finished, if the person had to select bottles again, it wouldn't be the same bottles because that information was already known. So that was really, really amazing. And then in 2000, so I did the color therapy courses first, and then in 2000, I heard about Healing Touch, that they were going to come out to. There's another story about the fact that I didn't think I was a healer, and then what happened for me to discover that I was, and then I wanted to do that, but that story doesn't apply here. I'll tell it another time. But I heard that the Healing Touch people were coming out to South Africa. They were coming to Durban, where I lived at the time, and they were going to be teaching level 1 to 5. And so at first I wasn't paying attention. Then somebody said, yeah, part of the techniques that are under the umbrella of Healing Touch or some of the techniques of Barbara Ann Brennan. I was like, what? I'm definitely going to do that, because I was hoping Barbara Ann Brennan would come to South Africa, but she's never been here. And so I then decided to do all the training. But bearing in mind that I'm the world's biggest skeptic, I was paying close attention to everything. So I need to give you a little bit of background information about me first, okay? So I lost my husband in December 1987, my first husband. And many people that suffer the loss of a loved one are frozen in their bereavement. So they're unable to really experience life to the full after their loss. Everything that they see or experience is colored by their grief. And they're looking through the looking glass of their loss, okay? So they don't notice whether the sun is shining or it's not. They don't laugh or have fun or enjoy life like they used to, but they don't realize that, okay? So all life experience seems to be tainted with a heavy heart, even though they may not be consciously aware of it. So I was devastated by my husband's death, but I believed in life after death, and I also understood that no one dies before their time. My beliefs and understandings of higher truth helped me through this time, giving me coping tools to survive. So with time, I managed to bounce back and continue with my life, having dealt with the loss. So I thought. So fast forward. So he had died December 1987. Fast forward to October 2000. I attend the first level of the Healing Touch program. So one of the techniques that were taught on level 1 was for grief release. So I asked the facilitator to explain how that worked, as I felt that I had dealt with the grief of the loss of my husband through my beliefs and understanding. And she explained that when you get one of life's knocks, you drop down a level energetically. After a while, your body normalizes to the lower level. So where we think we've bounced back, no, we've normalized where we're at. So our bodies are built for survival. So wherever it finds itself, it normalizes. So the situation that you're in, it normalizes to in order for you to cope with life so that you can carry on. When we normalize at the lower level, we think we've gone back, and that's why we think we recovered. That's why I thought I was fine. But then the next life's knock happens, the next life knock, and so on. So let's say the first one is your pet dies. I'm okay. Then your heart's broken at 16. I'm okay. Your mom dies. I'm okay. You get divorced. I'm okay. I can hear by the tone of a person's voice where they're at. I've got friends that are inclined to suffer from depression sometimes, with stuff going on in their life, and I can hear in the tone of their voice straight away when something is going on. So where you were at the beginning and where you are 6 knocks later is a very different place. Our bodies just shut the grief out, and so we are not consciously aware of it. So that where we are and where we function in our lives is much more suppressed than what we would have, because the grief is locked into our energy system. So when I told her that I managed to deal with the grief and that I didn't have the grief locked into my energy system due to my beliefs and understanding of death, she asked me, so how often do you think of your husband or the times you had together? And I said to her, this is now 13 years down the line. So it's not often now. And she said, I don't know, if I was asking you that and it was just 6 months after his death, you would be saying the same thing. She said, in order for you to access the memories, you first have to go through the memory of the moment of the shock of the news of the death. So if you look at it chronologically, where you are now and where you need to get to the memories, you have to go through the shock of the trauma of the death. And so the body would do everything to avoid going there, as it would be too traumatic. So when we remember something in the past, we are accessing the information as if it was happening right now. The body doesn't know the difference between then and now. In order to remember something, it has to bring it into present time. That's why when you have a memory of something that is sad, you feel sad now. Or if you have a memory of something that's happy, you feel happy now. So if you're trying to remember an incident when your husband died, your body would first go through the loss as if he died right now and then access the memory. So that's why the body does everything to avoid it. So I suppose this is what happens when someone suffers from depression. The depression is caused by them accessing many debilitating memories all at the same time. But, I knew better and was sure that she didn't know what she was talking about regarding me, because I definitely knew what I knew. Anyway, level 2 was the next weekend. And during the week in between, I bumped into a girl that I hadn't seen since school, which was, I matriculated in 1978. I finished grade 12 in 1978. And she said to me, oh my gosh, Allison, I always think of you when I see somebody lose it. That's laughing hysterically. Because she remembered how I'd end up having to run out of the school assembly or get kicked out of the class because I was giggling all the time. And she wanted to know if I still got myself into so much trouble with giggling. Well, when she said this to me, I was in a state of shock. It's like she gut punched me, because I couldn't remember the last time I laughed hard, let alone giggled. And I was trying to remember when did it stop? Because I remember always seeing the funny side of things and getting hysterical, as many of you have witnessed. And so I started thinking, when did it stop? Was it before Ian died, or was it after he died? Then I remembered an incident that happened that was just a short time before my husband passed. We'd gone to dinner at a restaurant, and something happened at the restaurant, and I lost it completely. Now, normally, my husband and everybody would laugh with me, but this time, he was not impressed. And he said to me, you need to pull yourself together. Go and wash your face. I was so devastated by the fact of him having that reaction. I was very hurt and upset. And so I went to the bathroom, had a good cry, because it was really out of character for him and I didn't really understand. But then I realized this 13 years later, if that incident hadn't happened so out of character, I would never have remembered it all that time afterwards. And so, because whenever I would remember it, I would still feel heartsore about what had happened that day. Well, I was very grateful for that incident, because now I understood why. And it had nothing to do with, he was obviously playing out part of the contract between us in order for me to know all these years later. So then I realized that I had stopped with his death. The laughing had stopped since after his death, because I would just even get slightly amused. I mean, I wouldn't really see the funny side of anything. So on that day, I thanked him and apologized for holding it against him for all those years. And then, so sometimes things may happen to us that seem illogical, but there's a reason why everything happens. And even if you only find out 13 years later, know that it's happening for a reason. Needless to say, when I arrived at the level 2 seminar the next weekend, I humbly said to the facilitator that I now understood what she meant. And I then asked if I could please, if someone could do the technique on me. Because there were so many people on the course, you would end up working like 2 people on 1. So sometimes not everybody received, but everybody did. Everybody practiced the techniques, but not everybody necessarily received. And so what this technique does is it removes the moment of shock of the news of the incident, amongst other things. So in my case, it was the moment of the shock when I was told that Ian had died. So a few days later, I was at a coffee shop with girlfriends that only knew me for a few years and who didn't know me as a giggler at all. Something happened and I started laughing, but out of control, until the tears were streaming down my face. And they were so shocked because they thought I was crying and asked me if I was okay. And I said, yes, I'm back. Oh my God, I can't believe that I'm back. And that's when I realized the full impact of how powerful energy healing was. With all that I learned, with all that I knew, with all that I understood and put into practice, and with all that I had done, I had been unable to shift the grief from my energy system. Yet in one session, with one healing technique, it was done. I was absolutely blown away. And for me, that was the defining moment where I decided that I had to do this for others and that energy healing would be a part of my life's work. Because, I mean, I've got friends that have done hundreds of courses and they just never practice it. They've just accumulated all these courses but haven't necessarily done it. But I knew if it could make such a big impact on my life, I had to do it for others. Because I truly believe that energy healing is the best kept secret. I believe that everyone should have healing sessions because that does for your body what no magic pill, no operation, no blood transfusion, no psychological treatment can do for you. The benefits are truly amazing. And after the session, I found that memories and stories from before my husband's death came to mind easily, still with the feeling of missing him, but without the devastating feeling of the loss. So that got me on a journey of wanting to do the work and wanting to be able to make a difference in other people's lives. So just to explain a little bit about energy healing and why I wanted to speak about this as well, because I also realized there would be quite a lot of people, because people are coming onto Telegram from all different backgrounds, and some of them may not know what energy healing is, and they might have thought that it was evil work or satanic work or, devil's work, or, some people have a reservation about that because they don't understand it. But it's not too different from laying on of hands. That's what laying on of hands is that they do in the church, because that is also praying and being in your heart space. That also shifts a person's energy frequency. And just by the way, they did a not an experiment. They did a thing where they did readings on people. So they could check the vibrational frequency of someone in a state of prayer, someone in a state of meditation, two lovers together, a mother holding a child, and a person doing energy healing. And it was all the same frequency, which means the frequency is love. So it may be energy healing and all that kind of stuff. The point is, it is still love. It's the only frequency that can heal. So when you're feeling like you are in tilt, energy healing will really help to clear and balance your energy field. Very often at the end of a session, a client will comment and say, I feel so much lighter, which is such an accurate description as a result of the healing, because their energy system would feel kind of depressed, like pushed down heavy because of all the weight of the traumas and experiences that one has had. So to say I feel lighter, there couldn't be a more clearer description. So it's hugely beneficial to anyone who is or was on a lot of medication or has had anesthetic or has undergone radiation or chemotherapy. The techniques are also excellent for recovering drug addicts or substance abusers, because it helps to clear the effects of the abuse from their energy field as well as the cravings. Very often when someone has recovered from a disease or substance abuse, the reason why they start feeling the disease is coming back or the cravings are coming back after a while is because although the body has cleared the energy field, the energy field hasn't cleared. So that's still sitting in the energy field, although it's more removed. So what happens is eventually the residue of the energy field starts to filter down and affect the body, giving it the same symptoms as before. Like I've had clients that have come to me. The one woman had Hodgkin's disease, and she started thinking it was coming back. And I said to her, no, this is how I understand it to be. So let's just do the healing and the clearing of all that stuff relating to that. And it never came back, even though she thought she was getting all the symptoms. When she went for the checkup, it came back clear. And, the doctor will find that there's nothing wrong because it's just the energy at that stage that's happening. But very often people, if they're fearing that it's remanifesting, it will. So that is a problem. So I believe it's essential for anyone who has recovered from a disease or addiction to have their aura cleared. because this will make a huge difference after their treatment. And as I said before, with Barbara Ann Brennan, she could see that people who had anesthesia or chemo or radiation, 20 years later, she could still see it in the energy field. So imagine someone who's had many operations and been under anesthesia many times, and then they wonder why they're feeling so sluggish and they can't move themselves around. With chemotherapy and radiation, although it may be aimed for a particular organ, as I told you on that on the health and healing thing about that lady that was having the radiation on her breast, the whole energy system gets it, not just the organ that it needs to get to. And that's the main cause of the side effects of the nausea and the debilitating effects that they have after the treatment. So energy healing can really assist the body in coping with the side effects of these treatments. Now, the Healing Touch program, for which there's extensive scientific research that they've got, which shows the effects that they've had. They had someone that had psychic sight, who was clairvoyant, observe a person who had undergone radiation treatment for a particular organ, and having received an energy treatment to clear the energy field with the Healing Touch techniques. And what they found was that the organ that needed the radiation retained it. The rest was released from the energy field. So it doesn't stop the treatment from having the necessary effect on the organ. And our body's intelligence is pretty awesome, because it shows that the body knew exactly where it needed it. So it only released what it didn't need out of the system. And that's why I said, set an intention that your body takes what it needs and releases whatever it doesn't. So for any cravings or addictions, whether it's food, sugar, substance addictions, one can set an intention. For each session that you have, you can set an intention to release 20%. The next session you have, say, your intention is to release 20%. So that's, cigarette smoking, if you want to let it go or whatever, you just say 20%. If you say you want to release it 100%, the body doesn't even bother, doesn't even waste time, because it immediately thinks it's not possible, that it can't happen. And so then no change happens. Because I remember one of the girls on the one of the teaching assistants she was actually one of the teachers, because she taught the level 2, and she actually used to work a certain time of the year for a period of time in a health spa, and she would be doing the healing techniques for people to lose weight and to let go of cravings and stuff. So that was pretty mind-blowing. So I just want to tell you some of the effects of life experiences that people have had that I've worked with, who things happen in their life, but they didn't pinpoint things together. And I had a period of time where there were, within 1 year, there was two people that came to me. The one woman had come to me. Her father had passed away, I think a couple of years before. But her stepmother, who she was really close to, like her own, as if the woman was like her own mother, because she knew her whole life and didn't know her real mother, passed away at the time she was studying for her exams. And so the subconscious mind now connects the exam stress and the loss of a loved one. Okay, so it's put those two things together. So every time she went to sit for those specific, and these were post-grad exams, every time she went to sit for those exams, when she was trying to learn, she said every time she'd sit and try and read and study, it was like she'd never heard the stuff before, never seen it before. She'd read and read and read, retained absolutely nothing. And this was, I think it was her article. So I think this was the third or the fourth time, but it was the last chance she had. She wouldn't be allowed, because she'd failed all the other times. She wouldn't be allowed to, she wouldn't be able to sit for those exams again. So she was desperate. So I can't remember how she'd gotten hold of me. Somebody had recommended that she come and see me. So when she was telling me her story, I said to her, well, every time you sit down for studying, because that's the time that your stepmother died, your body goes into grief. So remember I said to you, like what happened with me, the grief goes undercover, that you've dropped to that level and normalized there. So the grief also goes where you can't see it. It's under the radar. So you're not aware of when it kicks off. So in her case, the grief would come up because she'd never dealt with the grief. So I said to her, each time you try to study, that's exactly where you've gone. So if we clear the grief, then you will be able to sit down and study properly. So what we did was we worked specifically on the grief and releasing the grief from her energy system. And then what we also did was, just before she wrote each of her exams, she just wanted to do a session just feeling like a Linus blanket, Charlie Brown's friend Linus, who wants to just have the security blanket. So she just wanted to come for a session just to make sure before she wrote each of the exams, and she passed them with flying colors. Then it was later in that year, a guy came to me, and he also was writing exams, and it was the last opportunity that he had to write these exams. He was in the finance world, so it was also something where he wasn't retaining anything. And I mean, he'd been in the industry for 10 years, and he said, this is absolutely ridiculous, because when I look at all the paperwork, it's like I've never seen it before. It's ridiculous. So because of what had happened with that previous client, I said to him, did anything happen to you before the first time you wrote? Because this was also the third time, last chance, and then he couldn't write again. And what had happened was his brother had died. And the brother had died 2 weeks before he was due to write that test. And so the same thing had happened to him. And so I said to him that he needs to, that we need to clear the grief, and then and then he'll be able to study, and he'll be able to do the exam, no problem. Now, it was so funny because he said he's never, ever been able to. He's that guy when they say, okay, put your pen down now, and it's like, oh my gosh, let me quickly, don't look here, so you can quickly write more and more and more and more. And of course, when it's these mature exams, there's no way you can kind of cheat. So they were given smoke breaks, like you could have a smoke break. And he said he could never, ever take those. But when he phoned me straight after his exam, and he said he was finished before the time, and he took the smoke breaks. So, and he passed that with flying colors as well. So then there was another woman who she was I was trying to remember exactly what the story was, because this is when I was already in Cape Town. This girl passed everything with distinctions all through school. I don't know why, I have a feeling she might have jumped a standard even. And she was in university, and then in her first year she was fine. And I think it was in the beginning of the second year exams when she was studying, and her dad died. And this was her main, support and everything. Everything she did was because she wanted to do it for her dad so he could be proud of her. And so after that, she struggled with everything to retain anything. It was just an uphill battle. So by the time I saw her, this was a few years later, she had been in the hospital and kind of been, just a normal ranking psychologist, and then she wanted to further whatever her qualification was. And so how this works is she would stand in front of a panel of psychologists, and then they would shoot questions at her so that she could answer and respond. And she was just like every time she thought, I just absolutely freeze up. I don't know what to do because I just can't answer them. And I know this. I've been working now in the industry for so many years. I don't know what to do. And so we discovered it was to do with the not dealing with the grief of her dad. So we did all of that clearing. And then I also started, because of that knock that she'd had back then, she had lost her confidence because she'd never failed in anything in all the years. She'd lost her confidence. And so she then decided to that she can't do it. No, she doesn't think she can do it. So I said, yes, you can. I want you to picture yourself being in front of them and you're answering every single question as they're firing it at you. And then, the other thing was, in order to go before this panel, she would be going up to Durban to do that. And so they have the thing, let's say on the Friday, and then on the Saturday night, they have this ball or whatever, this fancy do that they then hand out the certificates to all the people. So it's not a matter of time. It's like an instantaneous thing. And she said she knows it's not going to happen. I said, you go and buy the outfit that you're going to do, and I want you to picture yourself actually at the place and receiving it and being in the fancy dress and feeling that euphoria of that you've passed. Every time you think about it, I want you to go there. And she phoned me after the ceremony to say it all went well, and the ceremony turned out exactly as she had pictured it in her mind. Another one was a guy, he was a medical doctor who had come. So this guy was from Ukraine, or he was from one of the Eastern Bloc countries, and they'd moved to South Africa, and he was a medical doctor, and his wife was an engineer. And so he's a medical doctor. He doesn't believe in any of this stuff. But he had gone to see a friend of mine who used to do the best system with a biofeedback machine. See, as long as it was science, this guy was okay. So anyway, when he was speaking to Jonathan, he said, this it's his last chance to go before a panel. He said he's been to because. So if anybody comes into South Africa, that even though there may be a medical doctor in another country, I don't know if it happens still now, but it used to be, the legal doctors that are here, they have to specialize in something. So they've got to either specialize in internal medicine, gynecology, pediatrics, whatever, but they've got to specialize in something, and then they'll be able to have a license to practice. And so he had decided to do internal medicine. So everything he'd done, and this has been 3 years, okay? Each year he would go before the board, and this also was the last chance. And so his attitude was so, like he said, they don't want me to practice medicine here. I know they're going to turn me down the first time. My thing is internal medicine. They asked me on pediatrics. I couldn't answer those questions. He said, the second time, they asked me on gynecology. My speciality was internal medicine. So I was guaranteed to fail because they were not asking me. It was, the system was all against me. And he says, and I don't hold much hope out this time either. And he was a very solemn type of person. And I was trying to say to him, if you carry on like this, because Jonathan had recommended he come and see me. So it was under duress because he was just so desperate. And I said to him, if you go with that attitude, guaranteed, I promise you, that's exactly what's going to happen. But if you change your attitude and you go there with a different attitude, they won't even recognize you because your expectation is going to be different. Please, I know I sound like a crazy lady because you don't understand what I'm talking about, but this stuff is proven to me over and over in my life. All I'm asking is that you just do what I say, and then if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But don't say it didn't work when you didn't even try it. And he was still not really responding. So I said to him, tell me something. Do you remember? I said, when you got your doctorate, when you guys were all given your thing, did you do that thing where you throw the cap in the air? And that was the first time he cracked a smile. And he said, yes, we did that. So I said, can you remember the feeling of that? And the more he thought about it, the more you could see him lighten up. And he said, yes, I can. So I said, every time you think of the going before that panel, I want you to think of that day that you got your doctorate. Please promise me. That's all I ask you. And I want you to phone me afterwards when it works, because it will work if you do what I ask you to do. You've got nothing to lose. Nothing to lose if you try it. You will have lost everything if you don't try it, because guaranteed, if your expectation is to fail, you're going to fail. So the whole weekend, this was on the Friday, and he was going before the panel on the Tuesday. So the whole weekend I was wondering about, and I did the energy healing with all these people. I did the energy healing also relating to them doing the exam, the stress around the exam, because it also creates an alignment of them clearing that and the outcome. So I get them to think about the outcome that they want, and that also has an alignment in the energy healing session. Anyway, so the Tuesday comes and goes, and I think, oh man, I wonder if it worked. But I never heard a thing from him. So I thought, oh, well, I know for one thing for sure. If he did what I told him, he passed. And if he didn't do what I told him, he didn't. Because this guy was in his 40s. He'd been a doctor for years. And now he really felt on his back foot with the language and everything. So anyway, I bumped into Jonathan about 2 weeks later. And I said to him, Zlatko came to me, but he never let me know. I told him what we'd done and all that. So he said, oh, no, he passed. He said, I saw him yesterday. He passed. So I said, oh, my gosh, he didn't let me know. I said, the scientist in him doesn't want to say it worked, because I know he had to use that in order for it to work. However, about 3 weeks after that, Mrs. Zlatko came to me for a session. So I knew that her husband had recommended it, except that he couldn't acknowledge it, being a scientific man and all that. He couldn't say that this kind of weird stuff worked. So that was pretty amazing, because these are things that one wouldn't think energy healing's got anything to do with, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. Then there was another story. So I did this course. It was, I think, also part of I know it was all part of the Healing Touch people, but it was a woman that came out and taught energy, anatomy, and physiology. And so that was basically telling you what, to do with the lungs and the this and the that. And so they taught us, like what the earth vibrates at, the frequency, and then what the body, the body vibrates at, and all that kind of stuff, and how the bones and the body vibrate at a different frequency. I'm actually trying to find, if anybody knows, whenever you listen to this recording, I don't care how many years from now, if anybody knows where I can find, I want to find the vibrational frequency of all the different organs of the body. Now, if you Google it, there's someone that posted a PDF on there, but it's misinformation, because they've put all the information on there, but they've said megahertz. Now, our body vibrates at hertz, not MHZ, at HZ. So I don't know if that all I've got to do is then drop the mega part and just use the hertz. I don't know. And there's no place. I wanted to email them, but there's no link to anything for me to show them, hey, I think you guys have made a mistake, or whoever typed it up wrong, because I'm sure it should be hertz and not megahertz. So I wanted from someone who really knows their stuff and can tell me what the different hertz are, because I honestly believe if you can vibrate the body at certain frequencies, it can heal. So my experience was, I don't believe in fixing people. My approach to the energy healing is supporting their process. And if you happen to heal, that's fantastic. But maybe a particular thing, like if someone comes to me for a session and they got a problem with their knee, and then I say to them, well, I don't know what the purpose is of your knee. If that's made you search for the first time in a direction of there must be more than just medicine, or there must be more to life, whatever it is, and it's got you now on a journey of discovering about energy healing and chakras and all that kind of stuff, I don't know how long your journey needs to go for you to be fully on that path and not slip off again. So if that's your motivation, then the knee may still stay painful, but I can promise you a whole lot of other stuff will be shifted. And if it's already served its purpose, then your knee will heal. I have no doubt about that. Oh, so my intention is not fixing. I don't think something is broken. I remember when I did the reconnective healing training with Eric Pearl, and there were about 100 odd people in the place, and he said, "So does anybody here do scuba diving?" And there were 3 people in the room, and he said, "What does it mean if the fish's scales are out? It needs more oxygen." So he said, "Okay, so that's when their scales are all out. So then you come along. Now you know these techniques and you know all these things, and you can just fix everything. And you see this fish and you say, 'No, fishy, you're not supposed to look like that. You're supposed to look like this.' And then you flatten all the scales, and the next thing you know, the fish is floating dead at the top of the water." And he says, "So don't think you know what you're doing. Don't think you know what should be fixed and what shouldn't be fixed. You just need to do the healing. The body is intelligent enough, and the soul's in charge to know exactly what's going on." So I've always had that attitude. So the one day I'm in Johannesburg and I'm busy teaching there, and my husband, this is my second husband, now ex-husband, they'd gone for cycling, mountain biking in the hills, and an accident had happened with this old guy. He was already in his late 60s, and he landed on his head, and he's a biologist, and he cycled all around the world where his work has taken him. I mean, he was a really, really good cyclist, and thank God they just slowed down, and he indicated that they were going to be turning right, and then he hit the stone and he went over his handlebars of the bicycle. And so my husband phoned me and said, "Oh my gosh, a terrible accident has happened with Colin, and I just wanted to let you know." I have a sneaky suspicion maybe he was letting me know because he knew that I'd do all this kind of stuff, and maybe I can do something. I don't know, because he never really thought that my stuff was anyway. So I was like, oh my God, what can I do? Because he had said that they didn't expect him to last the night. And so I thought, what can I do? And I thought, I'm going to vibrate. I'm going to do what they said about the vibration of they told us, they didn't tell us how to do this. I thought of this. I think I might have channeled that. They had told us what the bones vibrate at and what the body vibrates at, the range. And so I just got, keep the body idling. So just vibrate the bones at such and such and the body at such and such, and just have the intention to keep the body idling while he decides if he's going to stay or go. And so I did that. I was aware of it the whole time because I was only getting back the next night. And so I kept that up. Every time I was thinking about him, I was just, that continues for as long as it's necessary. He survived the night. Then they didn't think that he'd get they thought he'd lose the eyesight with his eye. He survived that. They thought that he wouldn't be able to, that there'd be brain damage. There wasn't brain damage. Then they thought he'd never walk again. Then they thought he'd never be able to cycle again. And the only thing I ever did was vibrating the body and the bones. And so the one day, this is now months later, they were training for a cycle race, and I went and met. We were meeting at a coffee shop by one of the farms, and so I was meeting everybody for breakfast, and then I sat next to this man because I'd never met this man before. I sat next to this man. I thought, oh my gosh, I think this is Colin. So I called my husband over and I said, is this Colin? And he said, yes. I said, please, can you introduce me to him? And so he did. So I wasn't going to tell him what I'd been doing or anything because I wasn't interfering in what I'll explain another thing too about where they say, I wonder if I forget, please remind me, because I want to explain about have you got permission to do things, okay? And so I said to him, how are you doing? How are you recovering? And he said, well, because by the way, he had cycled there. That was about, I think they'd cycled about 50 kilometers. I don't know what that is in miles, but that's a long way. He had cycled there, but he was going to get a lift back. He wasn't going to still cycle back. And he said, well, they said I'd never be able to have my balance. In other words, like you can sit down and you can put your pants on while you're sitting down, while you put the legs of your pants on. But if you're standing up, to keep the balance of putting the one leg in and then the other leg in, he was told he'd never be able to do that. And he said, this morning I did that. So I was absolutely so emotional because I knew what his path had been all along, and yet they'd written him off. And I hadn't done any magic besides that vibrating the bones in the body. So what I want to say around that is some people, because I've been challenged over the years of, but how do you know if you've got permission? Because many people want to go in boots and all in order to fix people. And I'm gonna do healing on them because they shouldn't be with their partner. And my friend is crazy. She shouldn't even be with that man. So I'm going to do energy healing on her so she can leave him. It's like, you can't interfere in people's lives like that. We don't have permission for that. However, if something is brought to your attention, that is permission to do something about it. But without the attitude of fixing what's there, your attitude must be to support the process, to whatever it is they're supposed to be going through, you are just supporting them energetically so that they can manage. Okay? So there's never a time, and I will hear stories of people talking, and it doesn't even enter my mind to do something about it. So how come it doesn't enter my mind? Because I'm not supposed to do anything about it. Then I will hear somebody else telling a story that's removed from me. They're not even in the same group of people talking, but all of a sudden my ears are tuned into that conversation, and I will hear about that person, their mother, some member of their family, or somebody is ill, or there's something going on. And then I think, okay, I'm meant to do something about it. And then I will run energy and set the intention. It goes wherever they are, whoever they're referring to, because there's an energy signature from me to them and from them to whoever they're talking about. So you don't even need to know, you don't need to know right to the end. I don't have to have the person face to face, but I've always gone by, if it gets my attention, I am meant to do something about it. But I never, ever have the attitude of needing to fix the people, because I don't believe that is appropriate. So with the energy healing, I mean, there's no limit to what I've used it for. When people have had problems with their businesses, I say, oh, well, that's an entity. It's an energy body, okay? Your business is an energy body as much as you are an energy body. If you own the business, then I can do healing on you, surrogating for the business, and that'll create an alignment for the business. I've done this for properties. I've done this for farms, where I've had a woman, when I was still in KZN, there was a woman who had come, and there was stuff going on their farm. And then I said, well, why don't you surrogate for the farm? So as you lie down, imagine yourself being the farm. So you can feel the outer perimeter. You can feel where the farmhouse is, the outbuildings, wherever the cows are. Just get a full sense of that, but be the land, and then we'll do an alignment with that, clearing an alignment with that. And everything shifted. Whatever the problems were they were having, it shifted, because everything consists of energy. So everything can be positively impacted through energy. The fact that there's even anything negative going on, it means there's negative energy associated with it. Because if what I'm saying is not true, then how is it that these things, when nothing has actually happened, there are issues? There's got to be some energy thing that's caused the issues. There's got to be an energetic stuff behind it in order for those issues to even exist. So I don't work the way I was taught. I chuck energy at everything, no matter what it is. And I can do it in an informal way, in a formal way. I do this 1 minute technique for aligning. I think I spoke about it on one of the other talks, what they call the Maori technique, where it can totally align a person and get them out of their stressed or panic space. And that's just 1 minute. So what what is this energy that we are working with? There's no limit to it, absolutely no limit to it. And it's okay if we can't define it, because really it doesn't matter what it is, how it works, as long as you enhance it and use intention and work with your heart. You can't go wrong. You absolutely can't go wrong. And the energy is intelligent, the body's intelligent, the person's soul's intelligent. They know exactly what to do. Just give it the right soil for the thing to grow. In other words, anything will grow if the soil is balanced. So if you provide the right environment, the healing can happen. You just got to clear all the stuff that would stop the healing from happening, and the healing will happen naturally, because our natural state is pure joy and love and harmony and happiness. That's what we're supposed to feel. So you must know how hard we are working to keep out of that, to prevent ourselves from being in that space. So I'm hoping that's given enough information for people to, if you've never had an energy session, to go down that road and test it out. The one woman, what's her name? Judith Orloff, wrote a book, Emotional. I can't remember the name of it, because I think she's a psychologist or whatever. And she happened to say in there, she's talking about something different. And she says, so if you've got anything going on in your life, whether it's financial problems, if there's anything happening whatsoever in your life, just go for an energy healing session. It will shift it. Now, she's talking about just a general balancing. She's not talking like where I work with specifics. I never do general. I always work with what is going on. We're going to work on that specifically, because once that's shifted, it's shifted for good. You don't have to redo that. It's done. Like when I work with someone with relationships, we don't just work on the relationship that you're going through now, because everything that's going on in that relationship, you've got all your previous relationships in there. So let's just do all relationships, so you don't have to worry about that moving forward. And so in her book, she actually said, I thought it was amazing. She said, just whatever's going on, just go for a healing session. You'll just find that it shifts. It just changes the dynamic in your energy field, and whatever the issue is that's going on with you, mental, emotional, physical, whatever it is, financial, it will shift. So there's nothing that you can't apply energy and energy healing to. So when all else, and that's the other thing, when the medical profession says there's nothing else we can do, it just means from a medical perspective, the scientific stuff that they do, there's nothing more they can do to help or to support the situation. But man, there's so much more that you can do. You can completely transform your body. You can regrow cells that were. Do you know that your body renews itself? I think the last thing is 9 months. So there's one thing that renews itself every day or every so many hours, and then the one thing, I don't know if it's the liver, but something renews itself every 9 months. So we should not have a scar on our body. We should not have any blemish, anything that is wrong. It's only the patterns that are held in play that make it recreate with the scar. Because if all the skin is renewing itself, why is the scar still there? Only because you have the memory and the imprint of the experience associated with that physical injury. So the information, I can't emphasize enough how energy healing is the best kept secret. And that's why they had to try and say that it was bad and then it was devil's work and satanic. But hey, what's laying on of hands? They do it in the churches, so it can't be that evil, because then they wouldn't be doing that. To me, God cannot not be involved where healing takes place. For healing to take place, God has to be there. And or whatever you call divine guidance, divine source, whatever it is, God has to be involved. And at the end of the day, it's all about love. All about love. So I'm going to stop at that point and see if anybody has any questions. If there's something that you think I've left out, please ask me so I can expand on that. So does anybody have any questions?